In the name of the people of Burkina Faso, in the name of our ancestors who defended their land with courage, in the name of Africa, whose dignity has been challenged but not destroyed, I stand before the world to speak clearly, openly, and without fear. I have received the message of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. I have heard your demand. You claim that Burkina Faso must return $1 billion or face international litigation, sanctions, and the suspension of development projects meant to support our people. You expect us to panic. You expect us to bow. You expect us to accept your demand as though it were the voice of unquestionable authority. But hear me now, and hear me well. Burkina Faso will not pay for its own exploitation. Burkina Faso will not finance its own oppression. Burkina Faso will not kneel before institutions built on the remnants of colonial domination. There is a narrative the world has been taught to believe, that Africa owes the world, that African nations must justify their existence by paying endless debts, that Africa is permanently in arrears. But the truth is the opposite. The world owes Africa. If we speak of debt, then let us speak of history, not the selective history of economic reports, but the real history written in human blood, sweat, and stolen futures. For centuries, Africa was stripped of its minerals, its gold, its ivory, its land, and worst of all, its people. Millions were taken from this continent to build the empires that now lecture us about development. Our resources fueled the industrialization of nations that today claim moral and economic superiority. Where were the international courts then? Where was the IMF when billions in wealth were extracted from African soil and shipped across oceans? Where were your principles when our people were forced to labor without pay, when our kingdoms were dismantled and our cultures attacked? There was no IMF to condemn colonial injustice. There was no World Bank to protect African development. There was no global tribunal to defend African dignity. And yet today, because we assert our right to manage our own land, our own economy, and our own destiny, you threaten us with legal action? No. This era is over. You say Burkina Faso is indebted, but we say Africa has already overpaid. You want to speak of numbers? Let us speak of numbers. From our mines alone, more than $2 trillion worth of resources have been taken in the last 60 years, and only a fraction has returned to our people. From our soil, foreign corporations made profits that exceed the GDP of entire African regions. From our labor, wealth was created that built cities and industries far from our borders. So tell me who owes whom. Do not tell us that we owe a debt. We owe nothing. We are the creditors of the world. And yet, instead of acknowledging this truth, the IMF continues the same old pattern. Loans with conditions, aid with strings, assistance that helps the lender more than the receiver, programs that claim to support development yet undermine sovereignty, loans that return to the lender through interest, contracts, privatization, and control over national budgets. You call this partnership. We call it economic occupation. I stand here today, not just for Burkina Faso, but for every African nation that has been told to accept poverty as destiny, while their wealth enriches others. I stand for every farmer whose land is rich, but whose pockets are empty. I stand for every child whose school lacks books, while foreign companies export tons of minerals across our borders every day. I stand for every young African who is told to be patient, while foreign banks collect interest on money created from our resources. We will not accept this anymore. We refuse to remain a continent that produces wealth for others while living in poverty. We refuse to remain suppliers of raw materials while others build industries. We refuse to beg for aid while our soil contains everything humanity needs to thrive. We are not poor, we have been made poor. And now we choose to reverse it. To the IMF, we say this: your threats do not frighten us. Your sanctions do not deter us. Your pressure will not break us. We have known hunger before, and we survived. We have known war before, and we survived. We have known colonialism before, and we survived. We are not afraid to start again with empty hands as long as our dignity remains full. If you suspend your projects, we will build without you. If you block our funding, we will create our own. If you close your banks to us, we will open new ones with partners who respect sovereignty. Africa is not alone. Our brothers and sisters across the continent are rising. Nations are waking up to the truth that dependency is a political weapon, not an economic necessity. Burkina Faso is not asking for charity. We demand respect. We have decided, We will control our gold. We will control our land. We will control our water. We will control our development. And we welcome cooperation from any nation, east, west, north, or south, but only in fair partnership, not domination. If the price of sovereignty is to walk alone, we will walk alone. But I assure you, we will not walk alone for long, because the spirit of freedom is contagious. When one nation refuses to bow, others gain the courage to rise. And perhaps this is what truly frightens those who control global finance. Not our economy, not our debt, not our projects. What frightens them is the idea of Africa united in dignity and purpose. What frightens them is the end of unquestioned obedience. What frightens them is the realization that the African youth of today are not the colonial subjects of yesterday. We do not speak from fear, we speak from truth. And truth is stronger than any institution. So to the IMF, I say, we reject your demand. We reject your threat. We reject your claim to authority over our destiny. Burkina Faso will pursue development, not under your conditions, but under the conditions set by our people. We will write our own path. We will define our own future. We will shape our own destiny in freedom, in sovereignty, and in dignity. The era of imposed debt is ending. The era of African awakening has begun. Thank you. Long live Burkina Faso. Long live Africa. Long live sovereignty and dignity.